Hey, and welcome back to the Fully Booked Photographer podcast. And I'm joined again by Jonathan, Brad, and Janine. And I have a question for Jonathan. Jonathan, are you into track and field?
Is this a trick question?
No?
I don't get it.
Okay, so guys, Jonathan doesn't get it. So hopefully at the end of this podcast, you will all get it. Because today is part 7 of the series where we're talking about tracking.
I can't even. Oh my God, Ronan.
Tracking.
As the whole team breaks down.
Oh gosh. Because today we're talking about tracking your numbers. So,
Wow.
Jonathan, Brad, Janine, it doesn't matter which one of you come in on this. So, how important is tracking your numbers on let's start with a daily basis. So, Janine, what numbers do you track on a daily basis in your business?
On a daily basis, Ronan? So, in our studio, we track a variety. We have a tally of quite a few numbers that we keep track of. We keep track of incoming phone calls, outgoing phone calls. We keep track of number of bookings made, number of sessions that we actually photographed. So whether our clients show up or don't show up or reschedule. We also track the number of incoming leads that we get from all of our online marketing. And we track... That's all of our marketing trackings, right? Phone calls in, phone calls out. Yes, no, that's it. Those are the numbers we track incoming. And then, sales-wise, we track our sales totals for the day as well. So we track our overall sales for the day and where we're at. And then where that falls in our plan for the month.
Really? So you track your sales every day? So like you don't just... at the end of the year, send all the invoices to your accountant to figure out your sales number?
No, we don't do that, Ronan. In fact, we don't even wait until the end of the month to send everything to our accountant. So we update our invoices weekly, but daily we're tracking our sales totals.
So why would I do that? Why would I do this on a daily basis rather than wait till the end of the month and see what the numbers are?
Well, Ronan, if you want to be successful, you need to track these things daily because you need to find out if you're on course. And I know you've used analogies, and we're not going to let you give an analogy because then we'll end up way off course on time-wise on here. But if you don't stay on course measuring daily, then you won't know where you're at with your goal. So if you set a certain sales goal, a certain booking goal, a certain session goal for the month, and you wait till the end of the month to check and see where you're at, it's too late. You can't adjust anything. You can't make up anything. So let's say it's the first week of the month and your goal is to book 15 sessions and you only book 10. Well, then what are you going to do next week to book an extra 5 to now book 20 sessions instead of 15? So that way you don't fall off course in the rest of the month, the rest of the quarter. If you have 2 sessions, no show on a Saturday, if you're not tracking that, then you're just going to get to the end of the month and be like, man, why was I short my goal? Well, it's because you had 2 sessions that didn't show up or had to reschedule to the following month. Whereas if you track this and you're like, oh, now we're off our booking and session target, then what do I need to do? Do I need to call some clients? Do I need to run another ad? What do I need to do in order to get more people in the rest of the month since we had sessions that we were counting on now not come? And so by tracking these numbers daily, it allows you to know if you're on target, ahead of target, behind target, and allows you to adjust quickly. It's a nice thing about being a small business is you can quickly adjust. It's just you, yourself, and you that you have to agree with on what you're going to do. So if you know you need to do something to pump into your business, then you can do it if you're tracking daily.
Cool. So Jonathan, other than tracking what time your dinner is going to be delivered at from the chipper, what else do you track on a daily basis?
Wow. What do I track on a daily basis? Good question. Ask Brad first and then come back to me.
That means Jonathan doesn't track anything. So what chance do we have of having a successful business if we're not tracking anything?
You track all the numbers.
I'm joking. You know me, I'm only joking with you. Brad, tell us something about... Actually, tell us the opposite, Brad. Tell us what a number that you now track that you didn't before and the difference it's made to your business.
In what time period?
I don't mind.
I'll give you two. I'll give you two. That so in the last 6 months, I'm tracking more closely cash banked on day, which I've always tracked previously, but never obsessing over it on a daily. And obviously, obsessing it over on a daily has helped us build cash flow. Because obviously, we're doing profit first now, or doing profit first to a much more integrated level. I suppose we've been doing profit first for about 2 years, but now we're actually doing it to a much more level that I'd actually say we're doing profit first.
I was going to say doing it properly is what you really mean.
Right? We're doing it properly. Which I think in life, when you're doing anything, you tend to do it poorly, and then you do it to a medium level, then it's implemented properly now. So that's just focusing on cash, and then obviously that goes down to our taps when we're distributing that money around. So it's just switched my brain onto that more, which is a wonderful thing. And then previously from that, so this is something we started tracking about 3 years ago, was photographer accuracy, which was a new number I'd never ever tracked before, but started to track. So my main photographer in the business is my father, especially at the time 3 years ago. So I started to track how many photographs he was taking per session, how many photographs we were then showing to client. So, if you shot 150, we're showing 40. Can we make that better? How many photographs the client liked or loved? So I knew what our love ratio was, and then how many photographs the client ordered. So then I knew how accurate my father was in photographing for that client. And it's not Brad, just about photographing. Oh, go on, Ronan.
So, Brad, I was going to ask, sorry, I thought you were finished there, but I was going to ask you this. So, I think this podcast airs the week of your wedding, right? So, the fact that you always start things poorly and then you sort of get better in the middle and then you get really good at the end. How have you prepared Ruth for this with regard to your upcoming marriage?
Well, I mean, in fairness, I've been with Ruth for 11 years. If I was an American, we'd be high school sweethearts, but we're not, and I'm thankful for it because that would make me cringe. It's quite a scary thought. But no, so I've already done all that, Ronan. I'm in the good part now. She's had me for 11 years. She's had me when I've been bad and mediocre. I'm pretty good right now.
So, Brad, I remember the webinar that you brought your dad onto when we were doing Profit First. Was that to convince him to do Profit First properly?
Yeah, so Profit when we started to begin doing Profit First at the beginning of this year, it was essentially Profit First was like 2 arguments every month, 2 confirmed arguments with my dad every month where we'd fall out and he'd end up throwing things at me. I suppose he still does throw things at me when we do our Profit First meetings now, but it's pieces of paper, so it's not really that bad. So yeah, I brought him on just so he could hear the opinion from somebody that's not me, because I run a family business, which is interesting. I suppose we'll talk a little bit more about that in next week's episode of the podcast, which we're filming today, which is weird. So I'm thinking next week's, but right after this, where we're talking about staffing and training. But yeah, I run a family business, so it's fun, as you know, Ronan, and as Jonathan will know as well, having to work with you.
And Profit First is a tracking system too, right? It's a tracking system for your cash flow, so that's really good. So, Jonathan, what numbers have you had a chance to think about? The numbers you track?
I'm laughing because I'm trying to. I don't track numbers on a daily basis, but do I? I look at our sales. Well, okay. Let me clarify. So it's a bit more complicated because of my role in the Fully Booked Photographer 3XM business. In my own business, when I was running ads heavily, I would track ad spend daily and sales daily and ROI on a daily basis. Actually, I used to do that on nearly depending on how much I was spending. If I was spending a lot more, like kind of 5K a day, I'd be looking at it every 4 hours or so. But on lower days, probably twice, 3 times a day. But nowadays, in terms of numbers I track, I do look at daily sales for the fully booked photographer. What else do I look at?
Don't you look at all the numbers for our concierge clients?
Oh, well, yeah, that's a good point. So, yeah, for our concierge clients, I look at their ads twice, sometimes 3 times a day. So, yeah, we look at number of leads generated, cost per lead. Is that in line with what we set as a target with each other? We constantly stay in contact on a weekly basis. How many bookings have you got? You kind of threw me there because when you said what numbers do you track? Yeah, I wasn't even thinking that front. Yeah, so I guess I do track numbers daily. Multiple times a day. Sorry, I'm a bit sleepy. I had to get up early this morning. There's painters in the house.
So Janine, tell us this. Like, would you say when you're tracking your numbers, like, are you a sprinter or a long distance runner? Like, is it something you do in short spaces of time every day at a particular time, or is it more, your day is like a marathon and you're tracking numbers at various stages of the day?
I don't know which analogy it falls into because your analogies confuse me. However, we track numbers. We do it both ways. So I track numbers all day long. So I'm constantly monitoring in between the tasks that I'm doing, how many leads we have coming in, the communication that Candace has made with the leads that have come in. But then at the end of the day is when we do a summary. So we go to our board and everybody brings me their numbers. And so how many phone calls did we end up having coming in? Because Candace keeps little tick marks by her desk on the number of phone calls she's made and the number of phone calls that have come in and the number of sessions that she's booked. And so we go and we put that in at the end of the day. And so at the end of the day, I kind of do a summary of the day. Where were we at according to our overall goals? So did we book 5 sessions today? And our goal for the week is 15. So now we have the rest of the week to book 10. So what do we need to do tomorrow? Things like that. If our sales total, same thing at the end of the day, any of the sales sessions that have come in or the bookings where we've collected deposits or anything like that, or a client pickup and they've paid their deposits, or it's payment plan day or anything like that. At the end of the day, we go and we make sure all of that is inputted into our studio management software and we track where our sales total is at for the month according to our goal and see if we're on track. So it's a little bit of both. When I say I'm obsessed with our numbers throughout the day, I'm obsessed with our numbers throughout the day. And so it's a sprint and a marathon, I guess, if that's your analogy, because we're doing both. Now, if you take our numbers, sprint versus marathon, on our bookings, so for us, some of our bookings are short term and some of them are long term. So we have certain sessions that book quick and certain sessions that are planned further out. And so when we're doing, and certain sessions that are volume sessions. So when we're tracking our session count for the day, we're tracking it a little bit different. Like, how many did we track for that theme day versus how many sessions did we book for families, first birthdays, and all of our evergreen campaigns, if that makes any sense. So we'll track our theme days separate from our evergreen sessions.
So, Brad, like this tracking of numbers, right? It reminds me a little bit of what Janine just said, that it's both a sprint and a marathon, that it could be like a bit like editing, right? That you just get lost in the numbers, right? So other than peace of mind for you as the business owner on a hourly, minute, daily basis, whatever that is, what other role do they have, like the tracking the numbers? Like, is there something around quality control or client experience, or like what else do the numbers tell you other than you've got your sales number, you've banked the cash that you want to bank? Like, is there anything else that and knowing that the people are doing their job, is there anything else like regards quality control or client experience and how they link together and what the numbers tell you about that?
I'm sorry. As soon as Ronan said that for Brad, all I could picture is Brad at the end of the day, like throwing cash up in the air. Having it come out of his hands and go like, here's all the money for the day. Make it rain. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Brad.
That's why I actually asked Brad the question.
It takes me back to Vegas. So when you were saying that to me, Ronan, all I could think about was the numbers were like real and alive, and the numbers are telling me something. What do the numbers tell you? Because really, like, it's a weird thing because the numbers tell you anything. It just depends what you're tracking, you know? So yes, you can track client experience, and you can track that client experience by, do you have a guest book? How many of your clients out of that day have filled in that guest book? And you could track that number. And then you could look at that and say, right, so are we missing the mark? How did we ask everybody? Yes. Did only 3 out of 4 fill the guest book in? Okay, what does that say? Is there something wrong in our client experience that fourth person didn't fill out that guest book? So ultimately, numbers can tell you whatever you want them to tell you. You just need to quantify it in the way that you can get that data from it. It's pointless tracking something if you're not going to do anything with the data. So you have to have, before you start tracking anything, you have to know what result you want and where you're going. And then once you have an understanding of that and what you want to improve, then you need to start thinking about, well, if I want to improve this, what do I need to track to get it better? So if you want more bookings for your business, well, that's easy. You have to understand, first of all, how many bookings are you currently getting for your business? What are those bookings costing you? What your cost per lead is, what your movement ratio is, and then you can build a plan around how you can attain more bookings.
So, Janine, do you track how often you go to the restroom, like Brad, with his movement rate?
No, Ronan, I do not.
Well, you say that.
Doing 8 glasses of water a day. No, we don't track how often Janine goes to the bathroom.
But you might, you said that jokingly, but if you had a health concern you were worried about, I certainly would track how many times I went to the bathroom and I'd put it in an Excel spreadsheet because I'm mental. But I track that because then that is information you need. It is, though, in that really terrible analogy.
This is supposed to be an analogy-free zone podcast today.
Is it analogy-free? Okay. So, so I get this number thing, right? So, Janine, you have a team working with you. So how do you use the numbers in a way that makes sense to your team? Or is it just you that is tracking the numbers, or are the numbers that they track too?
So Candace, who is my, she does the phone calls. She also does sales appointments, and she's my second photographer as well. So she wears several hats. So she tracks booking rate as well, right? So she, in fact, with our Fully Booked Engine app, she has it on her phone, and she's very excited about the visual where she can see the booking percentage, because it's on the dashboard and it's right there. And so if her booking percentage gets below a certain number, she gets all crazy. And she does what she can to get that number to go back up. And so she's obsessed with that booking percentage because it's for her, that's a direct line to her income, right? Because she does all the sales appointments. So the more sessions we're booking, the more sales appointments we'll have, the more commission she'll make. So she is very driven on getting the right bookings in the studio because she does the sales appointments. And then Sarah, she is our
production. Stop. Let's rewind, because you've made a really vital point.
Okay.
You've made a really vital. So let's just finish on Candace for a second, right?
All right.
So you've made 2 points, right? The first point you've made is that people in your organization own at least one number. So in Candace's thing, it's there's a direct link to the quality of the service that she delivers for the client and the quality of booking to her own income, right? That's a key thing. But when someone owns a number, they've got to be able to track it and see the effect it has for them without your involvement. And you've just mentioned to us that's now possible, right? That with the Fully Booked Engine, which we'll get Jonathan to talk about in a few moments, because I have another analogy for him. That Candace can see directly not only the number of leads that she can turn into bookings, but she can actually measure what those bookings are going to mean to her in terms of her bonus. Talk to us about that. Have you seen a change in Candace's motivation since she's been able to do that?
Yes, 100%. So prior, phone calls were almost an afterthought. When everything else got done for the day, I guess I'll make some phone calls. I guess I'll go follow up in the Excel spreadsheet that we had, who hasn't been followed up with recently. And it was really only the low-hanging fruit that was booking. So I'll give you an example, like someone who booked on the first phone call, right? Those were the sessions we were booking. On the first initial phone call, they picked up the phone and Candace had a conversation and they booked, right? But those were happening either at the beginning of the day, the end of the day, when nothing else was happening. Now that we have these visual pipelines and it is the forefront of her mind, like I can't have a sales appointment if I don't have Janine photographing somebody, if I don't have a booking in the studio. Now this is her primary, like it has become her focus. And so she is obsessed, as I am now, about, all right, how many leads did we get in last night? Let's call them. All right, where is everybody else in the pipeline? Who needs to get called? Who needs to get texted? Who needs to be followed up with? And so it's given her this obsession point, which has increased our booking rate. And so it's been incredible, the visual and giving her that ownership of that number, like you said. And I hadn't really thought about it that way before until you mentioned it that way. But yeah, since she can track that number herself and sees how it affects her and what she's responsible for at the studio, it's made a tremendous difference in the conversion rate. Especially though I like to think it's all me. It's my team too. Ronan, we can't hear you.
Oh, thank you. Brad, Janine has just told us about how numbers and tracking can bring focus, right? Focus to people. Have you any stories of where you've seen with your team in your studio where tracking numbers have brought focus, even Brad, in the area of photography in the studio, like when your dad's actually photographing, that the difference in tracking numbers has made to that part of the client experience?
So do you want me to talk about that in particular? Yes. So that my dad focusing on tracking his photography has enabled us to sell wall art collections. So that was the big change that made in our business. We went from selling, we kind of went from hoping to sell wall art to selling wall art pretty much every time now, because we've made a change in how we photograph. And ultimately, to sell wall art, you have to photograph for it. So by tracking those numbers, by tracking what my dad is shooting, what the clients, what we're showing to the client, what the clients love, and then changing how we photograph, it has enabled us to serve our clients better and then get rewarded for that.
So there's a key learning there, Brad, too, isn't there? That it's we're not just talking about the financials we're tracking. We're not just talking about the sales numbers. We're talking about how operationally you can track items to deliver a better experience for your clients that results in a better outcome for the business on the financial side. So you've been tracking if you show, let's pick a number of 60 photographs to your client or portraits to your client, that you're tracking how many they love in that reveal of those portraits and images, right?
Yes. So why is it 60, Ronan?
I don't know. I just picked that number. I hope is that the right number to pick, or could it be something different?
No, I'm only playing with you. I mean, we like to show 40, so then we're on an 80% love ratio. So if the client loves 80% of their photographs, they love 32. With 32, we can sell wall art and a wonderful folio box. So there you go, Ronnie. You need to know that number.
There, I do.
If you
I do need to know that number. Thank you for that. I do.
No, you're very welcome. If you want to sell more of your wonderful folio boxes, you need to help photographers understand that the love ratio. Is that what we're going to call it?
The love ratio.
That love ratio, Brad. But it's an important point, right? Because I see photographers sometimes, and they'll take 300 images, right? And then there's all the time of culling and picking the ones that are the right ones. And even if I have AI culling some of them, and it's while just get it right the first time, get it right earlier in the process, right?
Oh Lord.
So that's quite funny because, and again, it's a slight generational thing. So my dad trained on film, so he shot to get it right, which is why it's quite easier for him now to shoot, because it's just going back in time to how he shot weddings 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Now with digital enabled you to take lots of photographs, which was a novelty for a lot of photographers my father's age who went through that process. But yeah, getting it right in camera is really important for us right now, because we don't have the time to crop, cull, and edit. We don't edit photographs before clients see them. We do an 8-minute crop and cull. So we'll take the 100 photographs, take out 60 of them. The ones we're remaining with, we'll crop them. We'll pull in on the photographs. We'll spin them around. We'll create collections to display and show the clients. So then it's all about the client experience. And that's ultimately what those numbers help you with. It's how you can make that experience better for the client. Because you photographing 300 photographs, you may think you're serving the client better, but if that client's not getting to see their photographs that day, and then they're not seeing their photographs a week or 2 weeks down the line, that's hurting their expectations, because they're excited, they want to see those photographs right now. And then if you're taking an hour plus to do those crop and cull edits, you're taking away from that experience.
So Jonathan, we're at the Business of Photography Olympics, right? So we're leaving the track and field now. We're going into the boxing arena, right? So we're in the boxing arena because I know a lot of our listeners feel like they've been hit a killer punch, right? That they're dizzy, even just thinking about all these spreadsheets and all these numbers and all this stuff. But they don't have to feel that way, right? Because if we take our members at the moment who are using our fully booked engine, right, it takes away a lot of the need for many spreadsheets, right? That you can actually build this, that the fully booked engine itself will do a lot of the calculations for you and give you the key numbers that you need on a daily, weekly, hourly basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's important to kind of bring it back to our listeners, what should they actually be focused on? Because on this particular episode, we've talked about tracking loads of different things. And as you'd say in Ireland, we've been all over the shop, going from A to Z to 1 to 7 to B to 23, right? So yes, absolutely. The fully booked engine simplifies your tracking, and it's some of the feedback we've had from our members. But basically, when it comes to tracking your numbers, guys, especially when it comes to your marketing, you need to track because you need to be able to plan. So without tracking, you can't plan, and without a plan that you can then implement, then you're doomed to fail. So like Janine said, you need to be tracking the number of leads you generate. Now, just because you generate 100 leads doesn't mean that all of those are going to book with you and become your, an ideal client. If you generate 100 leads, you'll probably speak to only 30% of those. So you'll speak to 30 out of 100 leads. Of those 30 that you speak to and have conversations with, you will probably book in anywhere from 80 to 90%, depending on your business and your business model and your genres. So knowing that you have to track, okay, how many leads do I need to generate? Well, I know that in order to get one booking, I need to generate 5 leads, for example. Using the engine can help simplify that, because you can see all of your leads coming in from your Facebook ads. You can see how much you spent on your ads to generate those leads, so you can tell your cost per lead. Now, depending on the photographer, some of our members need on average 5 touch points to even have a conversation with the lead they've generated. So one of our members shared in a presentation last night that typically she needs think it's 2 emails, 2 texts, and a phone call to actually get through and speak to her leads on average. So with the whole pipeline of, from lead to booking, and with the automations built into it, with the texts and the emails being automatically sent as you move leads along your pipeline, you can properly track how many touch points it takes to actually get on the phone and have conversations with your leads. And then, like Janine was talking about, the booking rate, it tracks your booking rate, and it can become like a fun game. Janine's booking rate is something like 27%. I think Janine typically ranges from 24 to 27%, right? And that has increased since you started using the engine, because you're visually tracking the stage your leads are at. Because our other members who have used the engine have said to us, wow, this is a game changer, because all my conversations are in one place. I can see all my client notes and my lead notes in one place, and I can see where my leads are at. And before, I might have forgotten to email this lead, or I might have forgotten to call this lead, and I didn't know how many times I tried calling this lead. So having that visibility and traceability is a game changer. But it also helps you to keep your numbers simple, because you can visually see it represented.
But you can also spend a lot of time tracking the wrong numbers, right? So we've all done that in the past. I have, I've tracked the wrong numbers, and we see a lot of photographers tracking the wrong numbers in the number of print awards they've won, but we won't go there now. But so the beauty about using something like the Fully Booked engine, using that software, is our strategies that we know the numbers that you should track are all built automatically into the system, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, focusing on tracking the right numbers is vital. A lot of people focus on turnover, but they make no money and they have no cash in the bank. Right? So it's important to remember that, you're saying, Ronan, that you say, I don't want to steal your thunder, but you'll share it in a minute, I'm sure. But, a lot of people focus when they're running ads in their marketing. I'll speak to these numbers first. They're looking at how many impressions they have and how many people they've reached and what their cost per click is. And it doesn't matter, because the most important numbers in your marketing are one, ROI, how many sales did I make versus the amount of money I spent on ads, which you can't track in real time, which you can track historically. So the second best number is the cost per booking. How much did I spend on ads? How many bookings did I get? What was my cost to get a booking? Because when you know your average sale and you know your cost per booking, your target cost per booking, you can then spend money on ads to your heart's delight, as long as you're hitting those numbers.
So Janine, I want to go back to the I think we're going to finish shortly, but I want to go back to the motivational thing, because I think that's key, right? Is that because often we see numbers as, they're boring, and they're actually demotivating. Even the thought of having to track numbers can be demotivating for a lot of creatives like we, right? But I'm fascinated about the fact that the mindset shift in that you talked about, even within your team, right? And even you're going to tell us a story about Sarah, right? So, how has tracking numbers motivated Sarah in what she does in your business?
So we like to call it fun with numbers, Ronan, because numbers are fun. And so we have a joke here that we have fun with our numbers. And we all three of us happen on the team, and then Rob too. So we have a team of 4, but he does all the retouching. Other numbers that should be tracked, which we won't talk about now, is too much. But we are all visual people in the business. I mean, I have an engineering background, so I tend to lean a little bit more on the numbers side, but still I'm a visual creative learner. So the boards that we have, the visual that we have from the engine has helped put a visual with the boring number to make it more fun. But we've also started tracking it in our daily meeting that we are doing at the end of the day. I can't do it at the beginning of the day because I'm with you guys. So we do it at the end of the day. And it's been fun as a team talking about everything. And with Sarah, her goals are a little bit different because she's on the production side. And so her job is to make sure that all of the products look perfect to get to our clients in a timely manner. And so she's tracking different things. Like it's the time from retouching being complete to the time it's ready to go to the client. And so we have that overall tracking that we're doing too. So actually it's from session to pickup, or session ready to pick up, and then how long between ready to pick up and pick up. So she has different things that she's tracking, but that's more client journey focused. But in the end, it adds up to client satisfaction, because for Sarah, she was starting to learn that if she called a client on Thursday to let them know their order was ready, we know how people are with their voicemails. As anybody who has tried to get in touch with a lead will know, they don't listen to their voicemails. So when we added in the text and the email as well, letting people know their orders were ready, and then a follow-up phone call if we haven't had any response from them. So now we're able to add that post product being ready into our client journey pipeline to track as well. And it's giving her the visual, so that way she's not getting lost. And did we call that person? When was the last time? Because you never want a client calling asking where their order is, because that's bad. Like, hey, is my order ready yet? It's been like a month, right? We never want that phone call. And we were getting that phone call because they weren't getting the communication from us that their order was ready to pick up. So now she's taken ownership of that, and it's become more fun for her too, because it's an easier way to be able to do it. Anytime you can provide a fun, visual, easy way for visual people, and we're in a visual business, that's what's helped her as well. So it's fun with numbers. We make it fun. I try to make it fun with the team. I'm including them, whereas it used to be just me, and then I would disseminate the information to the team. Now that they're included and we're having the conversations, they're taking a little bit more ownership. And I think that's also making it more fun. Plus, we plan different fun things too. So we have taco days and pizza days and things like that. So, we make it fun.
Well, Janine, you've just led into our next podcast, which is actually on outsourcing and team building. So you've just sort of talked a little bit about your pizza days and all that and team building. So we'll deep dive into that in the next podcast. So guys, tracking can be boring. Track and field can be boring if you're running a marathon, I would have thought. Not that I've ever ran one. But we hope that you've got some ideas from this podcast as to, one, the importance of tracking, two, that it can be fun, and three, that it's vital to do to create a sustainable, profitable business. And more importantly, the first step of that is to get fully booked, right? And it's vital if you want to be fully booked. So if you have enjoyed this podcast on tracking your numbers, don't forget to click on the link below to download and get access to our gift to you, which is the 9 keys to building a successful business. All right, so that brings this podcast to an end. So from all the fully booked photography team, bye for now.
Bye, everybody.
See you later, guys.
See you later.